Okay, so we are live. I have a first comment in the chat already. Welcome, guys. Welcome back to another announcement with Samuel, as well as not only one, but two members of the Duel Commander committee today. You know Flavian?
Everyone.
Hello.
You might not know Nicolas. So
Hello.
it's time for you to introduce yourself to the community. Maybe you can tell us a bit about your way into Magic and finally, or eventually, your way into the Duel Commander Rules Committee as well.
Okay, so I will start to present myself. Hello, everyone. I'm a new member of the Duel Commander committee. My name is Nicolas Prel, and I'm Belgian. So from the wonderful, from this, I come from this wonderful country. Sorry for my English; that will be not perfect. And I started to play Magic in 2019 with Throne of Eldraine. So I started to play in a local game store, and there was quickly COVID, so I will play only online at this time. And I started to play in Duel Commander in 2021 after the COVID. And I start to grind the format and other tournament in France, because there is more tournament in this country than in the little Belgium. And I started to make some good result during this tournament, and I was already implied in the community, and I tried to do my best to upgrade the community and to talk about Magic and Duel Commander. And now I'm in the Duel Commander committee since February. I'm really happy about it, and I will try to make my best to propose the best format. Thank you.
Cool. One question to you. Did you play any other TCG up front? Like before you started with Magic, you had any relation to other trading card games?
No, I
Force
was
of
playing a
Will,
bit.
or there are a bunch, right?
I was playing a bit to Duel Links in Yu-Gi-Oh! The
Quite old school.
iPhone game. But no, I didn't play other card game before. In fact, I was playing football a lot, and I was party a lot, and I started to work, and I didn't want to just make party before during my whole weekend, and so I want to have a new hobby, and I said, "Oh, Magic is cool," and I began to play Magic.
Okay.
It's probably the best excuse to start Magic ever.
Yeah. Good one.
You made me remember suddenly that when I was in high school, I used to play the World of Warcraft TCG. I don't even know if you know it. It was a thing for like a few years.
Yes, I do.
And it just
World of Warcraft.
dies.
Yeah. I know it.
Yeah,
I know it. This is
it's
probably
like
the second only TCG that I touched, but yeah.
I think it just died when they tried to do something online with what's the nom, c'est how does it what's the name already, the TCG online from
Blizzard?
Warcraft.
Hearthstone? You mean Hearthstone?
How do you say?
Hearthstone?
Hearthstone?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I think it's something that's quite similar to Hearthstone. I forgot totally about that, but you made me remember this.
Okay, so someone already leaked today's changes, which are, Samuel?
There's no changes.
There's no changes.
So I think this is a good time to give you guys some space to talk about why there's no changes, and maybe reflect a bit on if you think the last metagame changes were good, the banning Ezio as a commander, balance, reanimate, and the fourth cast was White Plume Adventurer and unbanning Akiri. Yeah.
So the question is, sorry.
Basically, are you satisfied with the changes, and what kind of led you to not take action on anything else?
Maybe I'll start, or do you want to start, Nicolas?
Whoever goes first, whatever you like.
So maybe I just say some. How can I say? Just something, because last time I was here, I spoke about a few things, and now I can talk about them again with another way to see it.
Mhm.
So last time I talked about Ezio, and if I remember correctly, I was quite ambiguous. I wasn't sure if we needed to ban it. And after a lot of discussion, we ended up banning it. And right now, after seeing the changes it brought, I think it was actually the good choice to make. I wasn't really sure about it when I made the choice, to be honest, because I had the impression that Ezio, while being an excellent deck, had some bad matchups, especially some good decks, and even between the tier 2 deck. But in the end, the deck list were bettered. It improved a lot within a few months. And while the few deck lists we had at the start of the Ezio craze weren't that good, to be honest, a few months later, and especially after the winning tournament of the Win the Black Lotus tournament in Toulouse, lists were beginning to be more streamlined, and they were just better overall. And the deck rose very quick. So I think it was a case where the deck could be even better, in my opinion, but it had no time actually to better again. And so we chose to ban it before it was too strong in the end. And right now, I think it was a good choice, even if I wasn't really sure about it at first. So that's my point on Ezio.
What's your thoughts on that, Nicolas?
I think it was a good ban, and we see right now that it's a good metagame, a balanced metagame with a lot of different decks. Also, but for example, Ezio was the only blue tempo, blue mid-range playable deck at this time, and right now we saw Aragorn, but we saw also Malcolm, for example, or Loot, or other decks. So it's really interesting. And so about Ezio, I'm happy with that, and because I think if we let Ezio, it will be crush the format, and Aragorn seems to be at a better place, a better balance. It's more balance right now without Ezio.
So we talked about Aragorn the last time quite a bit, since there is like a part of the community thinks that this is a card that desperately needs to be banned. Today we have no change. So my question would go in a direction, or would basically be, what led to the decision that you said we do not decide to ban Aragorn? Was there maybe any consideration to weaken the 99, or do you think like the overall statistics say Aragorn is in a fine spot? What was your thought process on that? Whoever starts first. I'm yeah. Yeah.
Maybe I just start, since I was here the last time, so I can continue on stuff I said last time. So I think some of what I will say are going to be quite redundant, but it's nice to say anyway. So talking personally, I said, and I still think that Aragorn is a good deck in the format, but absolutely not ban-worthy. And the main thing to advance this opinion is that it's a deck that has bad matchups in the tier 1 decks and even in the tier 2 decks. Most of the decks that can play the board, and especially those that can play a wide board, are able to challenge the Monarch, and so to challenge powerfully the Aragorn. And I think it's a deck that can be really impressive when things go right, but can also go wrong very fast. Most of all, in terms of it's a deck I played not a lot, but I tried it. I play stated it to see how powerful it was. And the thing is, when you play the deck, you usually have the feeling that you take hands with a few removals, one or two good creatures, a few lands, and that's it. And it's a good hand with good cards, but usually you blast one creature, blast two creature, play one, your creature gets blast, and then you're like, okay, now if I play my general, I lose the Monarch. If I don't play it, I have nothing else to do. And it's an overall good deck, but without any over the top plays. And the big counter argument I could see to my point right now is that there is a few cards, especially some free cards like Fury and stuff like that can counteract the main problem of the deck, which is what I just said, meaning good cards with a high value but high mana cost, and those can get the deck quite over the top. And if we were to address the Aragorn problem, in my opinion, it would not be by the Command Zone, which is, in my opinion, a very good card to have, and it's an archetype by itself, which is a good thing to have, because Jeskai midrange is a good archetype by itself. It's skill rewarding. It's classic Magic. It's a lot of good cards that are played widely in a lot of formats. It's a quintessential classic Magic, in my opinion. So I'm quite happy the archetype exists. But if we were to nerf it, to do something about it, I would mostly target specific cards, and especially those that can counteract the default of the deck. So that's my point on Aragorn.
Yeah, so some time ago, like, because we just talked about this prior to the stream, Nicolas was also at the latest Fact event, and I was playing Aragorn myself at the second day, and we made a report for our members, in which I also said, like, no matter how good you play the deck, sometimes you have the right cards assembled together, sometimes you don't, and there, in my opinion, there are still a bunch of decks out there that are a fine, not a counter pick to Aragorn, but they definitely have a good matchup against it.
Yeah, true.
So I personally agree with that, and I also don't see any need of removing the commander. Instead, as you said, there are a couple of cards in the 99 that also affect other decks. Things like Fury, you talked about. That's a card we saw banned in other formats too, Modern, for example. Then there is Parallax Wave, which is a card that is talked a lot about, actually. So it's not only played in Aragorn, we see it in almost any wide, aggressive, mid-rangey deck, simply because of its absurd power it brings to any situation. Like the tempo drawback the card creates is really crazy. Maybe, Nicolas, a question to you. Is this something that you thought about acting on?
Yeah, well, we talked about, and we talk about between each other also about different cards, but we need to think about. In fact, it's important to know why people play in Duel Commander right now, and we know that people like to play this old card like Parallax Wave, like Force of Will, like this iconic card of the format. And so if if you make a decision about this card, there will be a mixed feeling about the community. One party of the community will be great, will be very happy, and one other will be less happy about that. So we need to really think about, and we don't have enough time between these 2 months to really talk about this card, and we'll think about on the future, and we know a bit. Sorry, my English is really weird.
No, it's all good, all good.
So yeah.
Yeah, thanks for. By the way, someone mentioned in the chat that I forgot to show the card. Thanks for letting me know. That's exactly the plan, but I was too focused on asking the question, actually. Parallax Wave is one of those cards, as I said.
Yeah, true.
Let's maybe go back to the Akiri case. So that's a question from myself. You talked a bit about your perception of the unban of Ezio. Maybe I missed that. I think I did not, but we didn't really talk about Akiri's impact, or like Akiri's the impact of Akiri's unban on the metagame. So you were quite critical last time, Flavien.
Mhm.
Do you think it was a positive or a negative change to the metagame, or do you maybe think there's not enough time, like only 2 months have passed, and maybe it's not enough time to evaluate the overall decision?
If I remember correctly, I think last time I specified that I was on the cautious side on unbans. And if I remember correctly, I also noticed that most of the time I've been wrong about unbans. Let's be honest. I have to be honest with myself. And I think it's a bit early to confirm this. But right now, I will probably say that I was wrong again, in the sense that right now Akiri is not played a lot. I think it does not. I did not see any particularly strong list. It's quite specific. And right now, I think it was a good idea in the sense that it brought a new archetype, artifact-based deck. But there is, in my opinion, two line of thinking.
Mhm.
One is it's just not strong enough, and it will just shade and disappear progressively in the metagame. And it was and if it's the case, it was an okay unban. It was quite pointless, but well, if it's pointless, it's not that bad. It's a risk, but a low risk. And the other option is that the deck is quite is actually quite hard to construct. It's a feat of deck building, and the fact that it's so hard to deck build, you can play something like mid-range, control, aggro, actually quite any archetype as long as it's artifact based. Even some combo decks can emerge. And so the difficulty to evaluate Akiri is that right now I'm not sure what the best list is, and if there are even a better list than the others. So I think we need to see what's happening in a few months, maybe even years, and if the deck is always under the radar, maybe it's just not strong enough.
So going in the same direction, maybe. As you also said, that the initial goal was to bring back or push the affinity strategies. Do you think that Breya might be a possible unban to further support this?
It's a good question. Well, I stay in my honesty position in the sense that I have an opinion that Breya is actually stronger than Akiri. It's a very strong card, and the main difference with Akiri is that Akiri requires some specific deck building, and Breya does not. It can be just very powerful by itself, and it's just an overall good card. The main difference in terms not of the card itself, but in terms of archetypes, is that Akiri is opening a new archetype. It was specifically unbanned for this. And right now, the blue-based mid-range board-based deck, I would call it like that, is a deck that right now it does exist, especially since we were talking about Aragorn. Aragorn is a good representative for this kind of decks. So the problem I have with Breya is not that much of a power level problem, even if I think it's a good card. I'm really not sure if it would be too much. I actually don't know, and I will not lie, I'm just not sure. But the thing I'm pretty sure is that it will not be played strictly as an artifact-based deck. But some people, maybe most, maybe a few, I don't know, will try and play this by playing just a blue-based board-based deck.
Mm. Yeah.
And the fact that the archetype is quite strong right now, I think we do not need to buff it. Especially since, as you said, a lot of people think Aragorn is too much. Even if I don't think so, I need to hear that. And I'm not sure if it's a good idea to buff an archetype that people already think is too strong. That's my point on Breya. As you can see, it's not a very
Interesting thoughts.
Yeah.
I think I feel like Breya is below the power level that you would expect from a command zone nowadays. But that might just be kind of my subjective thoughts on the situation. I think one card that is definitely below the power level of something you would want in the command zone nowadays is Baral. Have you considered? I know we've talked about this before.
Yeah.
And we've talked about the kind of cards being on the ban list that don't really need to be there anymore. And I think Baral is a prime example of that, where you have from what I remember, when it was banned initially, it wasn't really banned for being too powerful. It was more that it was banned because it took too long it just stalled out games too often at tournaments, and that was kind of like a sort of like a Sensei's Divining Top reasoning. Is it, and comparing it now to the rest of the metagame, I think something like Airtie is a much stronger deck in the form that it would take, and we already have a card like Ral for the Modern Horizons Ral that doesn't see any play, that also is a very similar effect in the command zone. Is that something you would consider, just to kind of clean up the ban list, basically?
Yeah, we did. Actually, it's something we considered. Maybe I'll just answer to that, and then I'll let Nicolas talk a bit, since my talkative nature is getting the better of me. But on Baral specifically, okay, we were talking about Breya, and on Breya, I'm really not sure of the power level. As you said, it may be true, maybe it's just not enough in terms of power level. And you're maybe right. Truly, I have no strong opinion on this. So, for Breya, really, I don't know. On Baral, I have an opinion, and I may be wrong, since I'm not that sure, but I do think it's still powerful, and I do think it's still a good deck. Maybe not too much, but still a good deck. I tried it dates a bit right now. It was like 6 months ago, something like that, 4 or 5 months ago. Well, I did some playtest with Baral. I updated the list with how can I say, with modern stuff, not the old list, but an updated one. And I tried to play against the gauntlet of tier 1 decks. And especially, I tried to do a lot of games against Yoshimaru. Since Yoshimaru is the classical wide board deck, Boros aggro, it's a classical white Winnie. So, theoretically, it would be a good matchup to play against Baral, since Mono White has trouble against white boards. And in the end, I did not feel like I was really ahead of Baral. I played with a mate, we changed decks, of course, and in the end we had both the sensation that both decks were actually strong by himself, but Baral has a little edge. Not even a bit negative, but I felt like I had a little edge. We could not do like 300 games, so it's not that representative, and maybe it's just a good run against a bad run. But I had the feeling like, by looking at the games, just playing a lot of evacuation style effects was enough to counter the whiteboard, and the tempo gain by Baral was absolutely insane. specifically, the problem is by turn 3, you need to have specifically 2 removals to kill Baral, because it always has a counter spell up, and so you need to kill it again. And 2 removals by turn 3 is something not that much decks can have. Even if they can, it means they don't do anything else. So it's quite hard, especially when you play aggro decks. And so, in the end, the tempo advantage was really strong. And the main difference I have seen with Ral, because Baral and Ral are objectively very similar, but actually the little lines of text are quite relevant in my opinion. The first one is the looting ability. I think the looting ability is not trivial. It's very important since you can have a way better late game by looting excess lands and bad cards and specific cards. And the other one is that Ral hits yourself. You have some burn inside the card, and it's not trivial. Since the deck has no way of regaining life points, it always ends up a few very low in life. So right now, I would say Baral is maybe a bit too much. I'm not so sure, but I'm pretty sure of one specific thing. It's that the game experience is not very good. Since you absolutely need to have a deck structure that lets you have 2 removals by turn 3 if you don't want to get behind too much. And that, I think, is not a good thing to have in the format.
So, I think from back in the days, I think I played a lot against Baral when it was legal, but I think it's like 4 years ago that we banned the card, or even 5 years. I don't remember exactly. Back then, of course, the tempo advantage of the deck was even bigger because, like, like comparing it to back then when people played like CMC 4 or CMC 5 command zones on a regular basis, and you have your 2 mana 1/3 that reduces your spells. That was huge. No doubts about that. And also, the play experience against the deck is quite awkward. I agree on that. The second thing with the loot ability, it's definitely a thing. I think that at least it feels to me that all these drawing effects these days are more and more punished based on cards that Wizards designs. So we had Hull Breacher at first, which was like 1 of 99. And then we had Sheoldred, and then there's Bowmaster, and like there's Leovold in the command zone that is probably only played by Alexandra Haber, but apart from that, we have it in the command zone as a potential commander. So, I mean, still, there's only 3 cards in the 99 that I'm talking about, but I think like in the future there could be a situation in which we have maybe 10 of those cards in the 99, and they're good cards to board against those strategies. And whenever a command zone with a draw ability pops up, we also saw that with Tamiyo in the metagame, people directly include all those quote-unquote counter pieces into the deck in order to fight or to punish the draw effects, So I think, but I also say this having in mind that I played with Malcolm, the mono blue Malcolm, for quite some time, and it's Bowmaster is definitely the arch enemy of this commander, not only because the ping is going to destroy your commander, but also because you can't attack, and your command zone basically has no function anymore. So I can imagine that there is a world in which draw is more and more punished. And we also see Wizards creating spells that say put into your hand or somehow circumvent the drawing cards, But right now, I think you might be right. I'm uncertain whether or not. Yeah, go ahead.
One more thing I'd like to comment on is the saying you need 2 removals for Baral on turn 3. I think I sort of understand where you're coming from there. I think there's a couple of different aspects to kind of respond to that, because I guess in a vacuum that might be true, but most one mana removals are going to kill Baral. So what you're looking at is either you play a strong 2-drop, which there are plenty of, against a Baral on board, that gets countered, and then you play your 1 mana removal, or the other way around, you play your removal first, it gets countered, and then you get to resolve your powerful 2-drop. And so I think kind of looking at it in a vacuum, yes, Baral needs 2 removal to kill it on turn 3 and more the turn afterwards, but it's a 1/3. It doesn't represent that much of a clock. There are many ways nowadays that you get to, not that many, but there are quite a few cards that let you that don't even get cast, so that get around counter removal cards that are uncountable. You have cards like what's the 2 mana counter target destroy target creature or planeswalker with CMC 3 or less that can't be countered.
Long goodbye.
Long goodbye. Things like that will start getting played more than they already are. And yeah, I think kind of I get that that's a sort of a toxic play pattern, but I think a lot of cards and a lot of decks have tools around that. And blue is not a color that gets that much value out of drawing and discarding. You aren't going to be reanimating anything. Most of it's going to go to maybe delve spells, which there's one good one and one more kind of irrelevant one, and maybe a couple of flashback cards, but not that many really strong cards in that effect. So eventually you just run out of cards in hand. So I see what you're saying. I think Baral would probably be unbannable, but maybe your testing kind of speaks higher than my anecdote there, right?
I'd like to hear
I think-
Nicolas' thoughts on that.
About the last comment about the looting effect of Baral, I don't think so. The problem is to make card advantage by looting card. I think it's more to be the Duel Commander. You play 99 cards in Singleton, and you need to dig in your deck to have correct answers. And the looting of Baral is really strong in this aspect, because you will play like card maybe like Hydroblast. We know that right now a lot of people like play Pyroblast in the format because they want to gain 3 wins against blue deck and cheese games. But in Baral with the looting, you can play Hydroblast because you will be a bad matchup against maybe Mono Red or Burn or something like this, and the looting effect will be great. And I speak about Hydroblast, but even you play Brand Surge, you will play against an aggro deck, and you want to have another answers. And Baral, we can dig into that, or a mass boons, a boons effect, or something like that. And this effect of looting is really great in Duel Commander. But about if Baral is too strong for the format, I don't really know. And about the unban, I was more on the other side than Flavien. Before I joined the committee, I was the first that said in the different Discord that I want to unban X or unban Y card, because it was for me not logical that X card was legal and another wasn't. But that's not the only question. The question also that's what unbanning X or Y brings to the format. I think, for example, a card like VR Smasher, maybe it's not too strong for the format. Maybe it will be not played in the format, but the effect of VR Smasher is make that if the card is too strong, that will be really bad for the format. It will be totally not fun and not interesting, because you may play Vial, and sometimes you will be a Force of Will backup or Misdirection backup, and you will win the game on the spot. So we need to talk about that also. But and about the unbannings, I think the ban list is great to keep player, because in the format, because when people play in Duel Commander, they love to rant.
Rant?
To,
Yeah,
decks, yeah,
to,
yeah.
to,
To complain?
complain
Rant. Okay.
complain about some card because they lose on it. Yeah, it's frustrating, and I understand that. I'm already also a lot frustrated about some card because I lose against that. But that's why the banding is important to keep player, because there is some card or synergy that makes the game worse, and the experience makes the game experience worse. But also, unbanning cards, it's really great to make new players comes, because, for example, when the formats become more international with MTG or with streamer like Ander Mengucci or LSV who play in play on Duel Commander, the first thing was, oh, white is got this banned, white is got this banned. What did you do with this format? It's not normal. So it's really important, I think, to have a smallest ban list, or keep a logical ban list to bring new players comes and play in Duel Commander. So we need to check off some cards. It's sure, but it would be take times. And also, when we unban some things, we take a risk. We take a risk, because if we make nothing, people are still happy, because they will not feel about no unbanning something. But if we miss something, if we made a mistake, it will be very bad for the format, because the format can be broke for some months. So we need to be really careful about unbans. And so it's we need to find a balance with this card. And we talk about, and also the difference with banning things and unbanning things. And we have I don't know how to say. If we ban something, we have people play something, and we can see if the thing is too strong or the thing is bad for the format. If we want to unban some things, we don't have the experience about it. We can't really test, and it's more theoretical. So it's harder to think and to prepare about that. So we'll be obviously it's normal that we'll be more careful about unbanning bannings about that. So
As a kind of final comment on the topic of unbans, I think there is at least one card that could have maybe by the time the next no changes ban update rolls around, you can vote on it and maybe finally release loyal retainers from their prison of being a card that really is not powerful enough for the format anymore.
Yeah, it's so bad. But we see with Akiri, we see with Trust. For example, oh wait, you're a Tennessee, yeah? I know.
I think it's a card that we talked about in our first. It's some time ago, to be fair, in our first interview with you guys, with Flavian. Since then, nothing changed. I'm also curious as to why this card is still on the ban list. I know there's always this argument that we only make changes. Excuse me. We only make changes if the change is actually interesting to the format, if it promotes like a new archetype, or it brings back an old archetype, or whatsoever. But, you know, having cards on the list that are really not up to today's power level anymore, it's not really, it doesn't make any sense, because you just said they're all over again bigger streamers even, and like professional Magic players having a look at Duel Commander or into Duel Commander, and the first thing they do, I talked about this prior to the stream of Samuel, is they have a look at the ban list. And they want to understand, because this is the first thing you need to know before you start brewing a deck and whatsoever. And this is also like the first impression you get trying to understand the format, you know? And I saw this when LSV was going through the ban list and was like, why is this banned? What is this card doing here? And whatsoever and stuff. And I think Loyal Retainers is one of those cards. And even though it doesn't push any archetype or promote any certain game plan, I think it's a fair thing to say that there is a certain percentage of cards on the list that is really not up to today's power, and we should, for that simple reason, just release it, you know?
The thing about Loyal Retainers, for example, is that the best archetype of the format, one of the best archetypes of the format before the ban list of January was Armina 2. And the question in the Armina 2 Reanimator, and it was weird to say, oh, 2 months ago we banned Reanimate and we banned Balance. It's great in Reanimator shell. And 2 months later, we brings in Loyal Retainers. There is also a question of to be consistent. And
just
I know that
quick comment there.
Loyal
Retainers
Retainers
would
is
not be good.
really worse than
Reanimate.
this other cat. That's sure. It's obvious. But they being in the committee and we need to bring a message to person who plays the format, and it's important to us that this message is consistent. And yeah, you can say this is not consistent that Loyal Retainers is it's banned and Nadu is not banned. It's sure, but it's find the balance, and it's really hard. But yeah,
I know that. I think especially regarding Loyal Retainers, I pretty much disagree with what you said. First of all, I don't think Aminatu is one of the best decks in the format, but that's for another debate. Second, Loyal Retainers, or sorry, maybe I didn't recall that correctly.
Yeah, it was before the
okay, yeah.
December. Right now it's balance and Reanimate unban.
Okay.
It's worse than before. That's
yeah,
that
might be right.
Speed and tournament performance, but I guess
the thing about Loyal Retainers is that I think the way reanimated decks changed is quite drastic regarding this particular card, because 5 years ago, let's say 17% of the reanimation targets were legendary. These days, if you have a look at an Aminatu list, I think there is not a single one except for some lists featuring Griselbrand. Because we have Lord of Exchange, we have the Archons, Agent of Treachery, whatsoever. They're all not legendary. So I don't really see a purpose for this card, to be fair. There might be a combo in a different deck, and this could, by the way, also be an opportunity to say, okay, we have Thrasios and Nadu decks in the format that take care of the combo archetype, but maybe we want something else, you know? And because like interacting with the graveyard is usually, it's not too easy, but it's getting easier with each set, it feels. This might be like, diversity-wise, might be an interesting thing, and players might find some cool combo with that. I think very back then it was played in Carador. I think it had some lines with Carador, but I'm not exactly sure because back then I was not really into Duel Commander yet. So, but yeah, that's just my 2 cents on the cards, or on this card specifically. So I might be wrong here too.
I agree with some of the things, sure. And it's a card. I think it can be unbanned without a lot of problem, but we need time to work together. It's also we're a new team, and we need to have time to work together, to learn of each other. So it's important to let time, and I think it will be we will work great about these things, and we will work about some unbans too. Sure.
Yeah, cool. One thing that I just read in the chat, just to let you guys know, because someone asks if Ketramos is still on the watch list. I don't want to talk about Ketramos, but I just want to let you know there is no watch list. So we talked about certain cards in the last update. this was all theoretical. Like there are certain bans and unbans that we communicate, or we would have communicated today. Apart from this is just pure speculation. We're asking for Nicolas and Flavian's opinions on certain cards. It doesn't mean that we're seriously considering, or they're seriously considering, to ban or unban those cards in the next update and whatsoever. Just to let you know, there's no watch list. But if there is no other card that you, Samuel, would like to talk about, I would maybe go over to.
There's a few, but I don't think we need to touch on them.
Yeah, we can save that for.
We touched on Is Your last time, and I think maybe Rofelos is another card that the territory is a little bit dangerous. I would agree with that, but I don't think Rofelos would end up being too strong for the format. But those are all things that we don't need to talk about today.
Yeah, let's save that for another day. But let's get back to some questions from the chat. So a card that was questioned every now and then. I personally saw some debates on that, and it was also asked today, is Dreamholds, which is an enchantment that was for the first time discovered in combination with Tiamat, I think it was back then.
Yeah, Tiamat.
Which was not
It's seen play every now and then in different combo piles.
Okay.
I think Tiamat was. Yeah, I remember it being in. What was it in? Tiamat is definitely one, but I think there used to be some deck that tried to win with Confluence.
Which Confluence?
Is it? I think it's just Confluence.
You mean
there's the 8 mana,
yeah.
5 color spell that basically does the same thing as Tiamat, except for non-dragon cards.
It's not Conflux, it's called, right? Could it be Conflux?
Maelstrom Wanderer. Yeah, used to be in Maelstrom Wanderer. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, these days. So here's the Maelstrom Wanderer for everyone who might want to remember the good old days when people played some mana rocks into big command zones. But yeah, Dreamholds is a card, as I said, that is on the table every now and then. These days, we only see it in Atraxa. So not much has changed in comparison to what you try to achieve with Maelstrom Wanderer. Just that these days you have a 7/7 lifelink on board that's going to refuel your hand, and surprise, the deck plays counterspells and combination of interaction whatsoever in order to limit the chance of you winning a game to a very tiny percentage. Is there any thoughts on this card? Like, whenever I talk, some people think that Atraxa is a serious problem, and it almost always comes down to Dreamholds. Is this something you talked about? Maybe you have. I'm pretty sure you have some opinions on that.
I can answer also about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, in fact, it's interesting because Dreamholds, we can talk about Toxlash also and Parallax Tide. It's aspect of the new form of control deck list, because before control, the control deck kills two boards, two boring. To both the opponent, and with Castle add-on variants that was all control decks can kill, and it was really slow. Right now, control can't do that anymore because there is a lot of different threats and the diverse threats, and control need to have a kill, and how to control adapt to the format. It's by killing with a combo in a pseudo combo, and it's weapons that I think that control need to have to exist. But the question about Dreamholds, Pitars, or Toxlash is if its weapons is too strong for the rest of the format, because we want that control exists. We want that the weapons to fight against the rest, or against combo, aggro, and mid-range deck, and all this diversity of threats. But it's important to know if it's too strong. And classic and magic controls combo deck is often the best deck of any format. Because it's really a really powerful strategy. You have the kill from nowhere with the combo aspect of the deck and the defensive weapon with the control aspect. So Magic was like this for many years. About Dreamers, the fact that it's an enchantment and it's really hard to. It's an enchantment and it has a pseudo ATB until the battlefield effect, because you will play Dreamers, your opponent has no answers, can have no answers to Dreamers, and you can cast Atraxa, and you will draw a lot of cards, and you will use better Dreamers than your opponent. But so it's really, really strong, and it can crush some archetype like mid-round, like Slimefoot and Squee, or some deck like this. But the other question about that is that if a player can't play a 5-mana spells, 5 mana, it's really a lot. In the format right now, the most of the threats was 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe with Minskebu or Pure, but 5 mana, it's the end of the world. And if the opponent, if a player can cast a spell and this spell resolve, it's maybe okay that the player can't win the game and the opponent can't have answers to, because if he has a specific card like Skullclamp, a lot of card advantage cards that he can't use Dreamers also. So it's hard questions, but the point that so Dreamers, it's there is a positive aspect and negative one, and so it's a card that we think about and we spoke about together. But also right now, Atraxa, it's not really an archetype that crush the metagame. It's it's like 5% of the metagame, and this deck exists because Dreamers, because for me all the control deck exists by the combo aspect, with so Atraxa, Glab, Idetsugu, and Carry, or
Atai.
or Atai. And we saw that TV doesn't really exist right now. It's in go under and under, and he has Dark Ritual plus TV, and it's really strong play too. So yeah, it's a card that can do something really stupid, and it's important to think about and to keep it in check. So, but right now, I think it's we can't really have. It's not the time to act against Dreamers right now, I think.
Okay, so maybe I can add a few words from myself. Two things I find problematic about this card is, once, it's an enchantment, which is an archetype that is yet harder to deal with. We have a bunch of more playable cards that deal with artifacts. Things like a Braid, for example, were played back in the days. It's not so popular these days. But, you know, like, it feels like interaction with artifacts specifically is much more often printed on a card compared to enchantment. The second thing is that we have a couple of cards on the ban list, especially in the command zone, stuff like Hogak, for example, that cheats on mana. And this card also helps cheating on mana, especially in the interaction with Atraxa by recasting the command zone all over again. You know, like, usually the cycle consists of you play your first Atraxa for free, then you refuel, then you play a couple of Planeswalker spells, whatever you found in the 10 cards, and then next turn you attack and you reset by destroying your own Atraxa, and then you play to cast it for 2 and whatsoever, and you continue. So this is, from what I've heard, apart from being a permanent that's hard to deal with, this is the most critical point, that it just cheats on mana. And these days we have a big problem with essential free spells or dodging mana costs overall, and I think that's the most valid point regarding this card. I don't know if you have anything to add, Flavian, for example, or
I mostly agree with everything you said. Maybe just add that, in my opinion, the Atraxa card itself is not quite a problem, since I think maybe it's a bit controversial, but I would think that right now and in Modern Magic in general, having a powerful 7 mana play that gives you a big edge in the game it's an okay cost to pay, actually. I think the card by itself is very powerful, but in practice, in the end, if you manage to cast it by conventional means, I put aside the specific Dreamhole problems that you just discussed, but if you manage to play a classic 7 mana monster, it means usually around turn 10. And I would say that if a control deck is able to survive by turn 10 without using the command zone, it means it's legit to have some powerful play to get back in the game. Even more since the card has no protection, and so you're very often in the situation to have a full hand, you lose your creature, you take a full swing, and the game is over. So I think Atraxa, it's a bit... how can I say? It's really strong by itself, but I think it's okay. And one proof I have, proof it's a bit too much to call it a proof. But one reflection, one line of thinking I have is that a lot of good control players don't even think that without Dreamhole, Atraxa would be good enough. And they think that if you had to play the same deck without Dreamhole, Tivit would be better. And even with Dreamhole, some good players think Tivit is still better because it doesn't leave you open when you cast it, and it's a very huge change. The fact that you can have your command zone active without being full tapped is very powerful, and specifically it gives you a better chance at beating combo decks that are traditionally the worst matchup for this kind of decks. So
interesting.
That's my point. I think Tivit it's still a very good deck, and the edge it has on Atraxa may be very strong if we delete the Dreamhole, which is not to say that we do not need to delete Dreamhole. I'm not sure about it, but I think it's a testimony of the fact that Atraxa itself is not that much of a good card, and it's not an over the top command zone, even if it's still a good deck. I do like this deck, actually.
Well, maybe because you created it, right?
Well,
let's be fair about this.
Yeah,
I can imagine. I mean, it was a cool find. It was a cool find, and it impacted the metagame.
Yeah, I have my bias. I won't contradict you.
One more thing that I would still like to add. I think it's been touched on a couple of times, and David L. Byer just joked about it in the chat. Dreamholes works for the opponent too.
Yeah, true.
And it's always risky to play it. I think I had one situation where recently in a tournament before the ban, I played Aminatu, and my opponent was playing Atraxa and complained at the end of the game to me, I had Dreamholes in hand, but I couldn't play it because I'm too scared of what's going to come out of your hand once I let you untap. And that's something that is a dynamic that exists, and allowing your opponent, if they just playing a Dreamholes and casting your commander into 5 cards in hand for your opponent, even if they're tapped out, is a scary thing to do, and kind of adds to that dynamic as well. I remember I played the Tiamat deck for one tournament with the Dreamholes. It went horribly, and I think I resolved Dreamholes twice, and both of the times my opponents managed to basically swing the game off the Dream Halls after I resolved
Yeah,
it
absolutely.
to play Tiamat. So
I would add on this because I absolutely agree with you. There is two, in my opinion, there is two different and specific situations where it's absolutely awful. Or awful, it's a bit too much, but well, it's not that good. The first one is exactly what you described, and I had the same feeling. I played Fatraxa for a few tournaments last year, and I had the same feeling. When you're playing against another blue deck, the tempo you lose by casting the card means you have one card less in hand. So usually you start the situation by being a bit behind in terms of cards, in a situation where cards are fuel to play more cards. So you play Dream Hall, you try to cast your commander, the opponent counters it, you try to counter with your last card, he does counter too, and then you're just naked, and he has Dream Halls as much as you. So well, game is quite bad at this point. And the other situation, which is a bit more awkward, but happened to me quite a lot actually. It's a situation where you play against a combo deck, and you just you have to kill some stuff he plays. You have to play cards, and at some point, if you cast Dream Hall, you're under the Damocles sword. I don't know if it's an idiom in English, but anyway, you have the risk every time that he could just combo off Dream Hall. And well, you can still play some removals and free counter spells, but you always risk the fact that he has more combo pieces than you have removals, and you can not use the Dream Hall as much as he does. So if you consider combo decks on one side and other blue decks on the other side, it leaves not that much games where Dream Hall is very powerful. But still, when it is, it's absolutely overwhelming. And I think it's quite a bad pattern to have in the format. And specifically, you've got a lot of situation where you play something like a non-blue mid-range deck, and you have to just accept defeat if your opponent has Dream Hall. It's a very bad gaming experience. Well,
absolutely.
if it does it justify a ban? I'm not sure, to be honest. I'm 50-50.
I think there are situations. There are similar cards in most color combinations. Cards like
you're right.
Minskin Broadside Bombardier. You have those. Sometimes there are those draws, and Control doesn't have many of those nut draws towards that end, and Dream Hall fits into that slot. So that's. I think if it's in a personally, if I were in your place, I would look at kind of metagame percentages and win rates and see if Atraxa is doing too well, and if it's doing too well, then a nerf might be in order. But that doesn't seem to be the case at the moment.
And the fact also is that the format the Aragorn mid-range deck can kill one turn earlier than Dream Halls right now. Then they can kill turn 3, turn 4. And okay, Atraxa is a control deck, so it can slow down the kill turn of their opponent. But the kill timing of this deck stays turn 4, turn 3. And having turn 5 card 10 can with which you can combo, I think it's okay with the fastness of the format. And the other problem also with Dream Halls is that it's an impressive card. When you play it, it's impressive for your opponent. You say, "Oh, I can't lose," and this the vision that we have about the card is subjective, because when it works, it's really a wow effect. But when the card is stay in hand and it's just a bad card, you don't see it, and so it's a weird way to appreciate the card.
Yeah,
be objective about it.
It's also like if it's your last card that you're playing and you cast Atraxa right afterwards, sometimes the opponent has a removal and your Atraxa finds 3 cards, an instant, a sorcery, and a land, and they're not that good, and then you're stuck as well. So it's not unbeatable. There are the kind of top rate of play happens a lot and is very difficult to beat. But I think I agree overall with the assessment. One more card that was mentioned earlier is Thought Lash. Mostly, I think, from a Glab perspective. It seems to me at the moment that MTG top 8 is down. I'm not quite sure what the metagame percentage of Glab is. We've had
It's
some
4%.
friends. 4?
4% right now.
Okay.
About.
Yeah. So it's a strong deck. I think our Marcus was playing Glab at the Fact and did pretty well with it.
Yeah.
It's definitely a cool deck, and Thought Lash is a powerful win condition for that deck. It also used to be played in the Genesis. What's it called? Genesis.
A Genesis Storm deck. Yeah.
Genesis Storm deck, which was one of my favorite decks in the format before it was unfortunately banned, in my opinion, too. So,
but here we are biased on the topic, so we have to be honest about that. Yeah, I can see why people have a problem with the card. I think Glarb is the first deck that utilizes Thought Lash very well in comparison to decks that previously did that. So back then, and in the very beginning, when partners were still both playable, we made this Genesis Storm deck with Thought Lash and Jace. And basically, you just had to cast your commanders and then cast Genesis Storm, and you would search your library for Thought Lash and Jace in combination. Then people experimented with Uro when Uro came out. This was the better combo deck for that. Uro was banned. Thought Lash was vanished until I think there was how's the equipment called? 2 mana 04 that lets you look at the top card from Neon Dynasty.
Oh, I'm blanking.
Oh, how was it called? It was an equipment and a creature at the same time. Guys, help me out.
I forgot. I will have a look.
How dare you? Flavien, Nicolas, come on. The reality chip, thank you. We got it. Reality chip it was, yeah. So this was the next deck that was tinkering with it. And then I think we saw some people experimenting with it in Airtight 2. I'm not exactly sure if this was post-Glarb or pre-Glarb release, to be fair. But Glarb is definitely the deck you want to go for if you feature that combo, simply because you need to have information for your top card. Otherwise, it could happen that you accidentally exile Jace due to the cumulative upkeep trigger. I think the main problem that people have with the card is that it is similar to Glacial Chasm, quite problematic for aggressive decks that try to win by combat damage. And personally, I'm currently playing Azusa, so I'm abusing Glacial Chasm a lot. But I was never a fan of Glacial Chasm. I don't think it's a problematic card, but just the card design itself on a land is very hard to deal with. It's not the fact for Thought Lash. It's harder to bring down. It's a permanent you can interact with better. We just said, okay, I just said that it's not that easy to deal with enchantments, but still it costs 4 mana. And so on and so forth. It has a downside. You have to pay the cumulative upkeep cost. So, yeah.
It's an interesting point, yeah.
First thing about Talkslash is that it's a terrible card. The card is really mediocre.
I think so too, yeah.
So, it's play right now because, okay, there is a combo with Jace, but with Talkslash, if you don't know what is on the top of your library, you can exile your Jace. And you don't have any combo with that. You gain some time. Okay, you have 99 cards in your deck, more 80 when you play Talkslash. So it will gain you time, but if your deck it's all about Talk Slash and the combo, don't have a lot of other kill in this deck. Glab, there is we saw in Glab there is not more kill. There is Murder Regent of one Tassigure maybe, but and one Psychic Foe, but it don't kill. And his maybe only kill is Talk Slash with Jace. So first of all, it's a bad card. And second point is that okay, this card exists right now because with Glab it's excellent, because with Glab you can have a tutor each turn, and okay, it's really strong with Glab, but this card I think needs had to be played only in Glab and not really in other deck, even with the Jace combo, because you can't without Glab you can't abuse of it, and you can't exile your Jace, like I said just before. And so the question about is Talk Slash is too strong, we need to know if Glab is too strong right now, and or we want to act about this thing. And right now, Glab, maybe it's one of the best deck. I think it's really great deck right now. It's a tier 1, but it's 4% of the metagame. And I don't want to act about a bad card against a deck that maybe it's tier 1, but not crushing the meta, and with that play only at 4%. So I don't want to act on this card. I think it's a bad message to send to people.
Yeah, I would agree on that. I think it's a nice. Again, it underlines the thing that you said earlier, Nicolas, that these days control decks or Glarp is mostly played in a controlish fashion, but also we see some mid-range variants. We can debate about whether or not that's mid-range or control. I would say it's rather a control deck. Again, making use of a combo in order to have like a second win condition. That's another classic example, I would say. And I personally also don't see a problem with it. Another card that is talked about a lot, very, very iconic to almost anyone, I would say. It's Demonic Tutor, a card that is part of the format for ever, at least from my perspective.
Yep.
Yeah, it's, well, I think it's quite obvious why people have a problem with it. Seems to be goes a bit against the nature of a singleton format for good reasons, banned and many other formats too. And most often, although some people argue that it costs 2 mana, and the cost of 2 mana is a lot these days, it's basically a joker. So, is this a card, or might this be a card that we can't include in the future decks? What do you think?
I think it's one of the most debated cards, and there is strong arguments to have to ban it. There is argument. There is some valid points on both sides. So I won't say my personal and definitive opinion, since I have one, but well, I'm not so sure about it. But the main thing we can say in favor of Demonic Tutor is the fact that it's a card that reinforces, that improve combo decks. And we still have the struggle with combo decks in the format that we cannot find the good place, the good situation where combo is strong enough without being too much of a problem. And the problem is Demonic Tutor is one of the best tutors. It may be the best tutor in the game, and so it's one more tool of redundancy for combo decks. And what I mean by that is that if you play just some kind of a good stuff pile, like something like Aragorn or something like that, and you have access to a Demonic Tutor effect, well, not for Aragorn, but you see my point, you just have one more effect of your best card, which is absolutely great, but your best card is just your best card. If you play a combo deck, it's quite different. The card becomes a part of your deck, of your game plan, and so it changes its nature. So the most, in my opinion, the most important point to defend the card is that it's a way to improve stability for combo decks in a format which is characterized by having singleton. And singleton plus structural problem about combo decks makes it a useful tool. On the other side, the fact that you can precisely have your best card in two exemplar, two times in your deck is quite a problem when the best card is precisely something too strong, something like a one card combo, something that is too powerful. The main example I have is a way to link this discussion to what we said before about free cards. Let's say Slimefoot and Squee. With Demonic Tutor, you can have your Fury, which is powerful by itself, but abusable with reanimation effects. And so Demonic Tutor changes its nature there again, and it becomes quite problematic. So I see truth in both sides.
Yeah, for me, I'm pretty agree with Crimelune. It's really great in combo decks, and we know that right now control decks becomes even combo aspect, and so maybe if you want to, if we need to not upgrade but don't downgrade this kind of deck, we can't have a decision about Demonic Tutor instead of Dog Slash or card like this that is really weak. And it's a way that we can think about that. Also about Demonic Tutor, what I like in the card right now, it's a card that is pretty hard to play, pretty skill intensive, and I know that people say that each time an opponent duo Demonic Tutor, he wins the game instantly and I can't win, but it's not true. And I think it's a card that with this card we can speak about the skill. We can't think about the game. It's interesting in the gameplay, I think, and everyone see its opponent play a Demonic Tutor and think about 2 minutes in this library and to watch card after card to know which card he wants. So I think I really like this, that a card like this. I like that a card like this exists in the format because it's skill intensive and it's pretty good, I think, in the gameplay experience about that. So there is a good advantage of the card and disadvantage, but it's always a question to find the good balance.
Definitely, and I think something that's kind of a bit of a broader argument would be that we see presence of Demonic Tutor is an incredibly powerful card, but we see plenty of decks that don't play black in the format. We see plenty of power in the other colors, and it's not like it's a kind of you have to play black and therefore just to play Demonic Tutor to be viable in the format. It's just another card that's in the 99, and it's going to be part of your. I think one interesting thought for me is because the format is so tempo based nowadays, your best draws usually don't involve you casting Demonic Tutor. They involve you having the cards that you would want to get with Demonic Tutor just right away. So kind of to fit those into this, to fit a Demonic Tutor in the 2-mana card into sequencing when you're trying to win on turn 4 or turn 5 with your kind of goldfishing draws, sometimes that's pretty difficult. So I like having Demonic in the format, and I agree with you guys that there are powerful draws in there. It's a skill intensive card, and as people have mentioned in the chat, Demonic Tutor is kind of a pillar of DC, like Brainstormers in Legacy, and I think there's some value in keeping that. Another card that Felix asked me to mention is Force of Will, and I'm guessing that plays sort of to the whole topic of free spells, but and looking at the ban list, there are a lot of free spells on the ban list. Force of Will has been in the format forever, and I think in my experience, Force of Will is one of the most game-deciding cards that exists in Duel Commander. So
Yeah, I'm back, by the way.
would be nice to hear your thoughts on that. Or Felix, if you want to say something as well.
Yeah, I think I just agree with your point already. Like, it's the best free counterspell there is, and you've seen you've seen plenty of situations on the channel in which you or me managed to steal some games, and we saw that in some tournament coverage and whatsoever. The card speaks for itself, and especially these days. And you said that earlier, Flavin, that there might be cards around Aragorn, and Force of Will, I think, is one of those cards that are problematic and actually break the synergy of the deck. So, yeah. Go ahead, tell us your thoughts.
I have another theory about free spells in Magic. Some people say that free spells kill Magic, but this spell exists since the beginning of the game. So I'm really not agree about that. And I think free spell is great for Magic, but not because the fact of the objective of free spells is to slow down the game. We'll see in Legacy with Days and Force of Will. Free spells, it's okay. I will not be killed turn 1. In Modern, with MH1, we see a lot of free spells. We see Force of Negation, Force of Vigor, and it was great for the game because the format was really, really fast, and it was a turn 2, turn 3 format, and free spells like Force of Negation or Force of Vigor was great because that slowed down the format and permits to play some longer games. On the other side, the problem of free spells is that when free spells accelerate the game, and we'll see in Modern with Fury of Grief. Grief of Fury was not free spells to defend itself, but becomes free spells to be proactive and to accelerate the game and kill turn 1 with Grief, not kill, but take 2 big advantage turn 1 with Grief Reanimate. And in Legacy also, we'll see with Grief. So with that, to Force of Will during a long of time in Duel Commander, I think Force of Will was really to defend itself because it was used in a control deck mostly, and so it was good because control deck don't have a really great punition can punish opponent with this foe. But right now we saw that control deck become really more proactive with its combo aspect, and also in a tempo deck like Aragorn, Raffin before, it's Force of Will. It's a spell that is used mostly to defense proactive plan, and so right now this can be a problem for this card. But as other people say in the chat Twitch, also Force of Will is another pillar of the Duel Commander. So touch to this card is really can be problematic because we need to know why people play in Duel Commander. And when I asked to some people in the community, people say, I want to play Commander because I can play my old cards and I can play a lot of cards, and it's cool. I can play like my Balon, my Force of Will, my Demonic Tutor, and cards like that. So when you take a decision about that, we need to think about all the implication of banning Force of Will or other free spell. But yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, I definitely agree on the pillow thingy, and I think this is probably the most difficult argument, or like if you come from that side, that's the most difficult to evaluate or keep in balance, you know, to say how much value does a card have for nostalgic reasons or also like iconic reasons, because people, as as you said, and as it was mentioned in the chat, that people say, "Oh, that's nice. I can play a format that features Force of Will, that features Demonic Tutor, a couple of cards that people have some." Not most players, I would assume, but that's more like the minority, but still have some memories to some old days playing Magic and stuff like this. And those were cards, or those are cards that were untouched for ages. You know, we never talked about it. And that's really difficult to include that fact into the whole calculation of whether or not those cards are problematic. But Crimelune, Flavio, I think you have a different perspective on the card, right?
On Force of Will?
Yes.
Still. Yeah, actually, I find the argument Nicolas is making quite convincing on the aspect of to get to some line to identify problematic free spells. I think it's quite a good way to see it. If a card has a role of closing the game, it may be a problem. If it's a card that has a role of prolonging the game, it may not that be much of a problem. The problem with Force of Will is it can be used as boss type of use. And I personally think it's most often used as a way to protect a powerful menace, a powerful play. And in this aspect, I hate that use, because I think we talked about it when we compared it to Blood Moon, if I remember correctly. And if not, I'll just say the same thing again. The problem I have with Force of Will is it's a kind of card you cannot really anticipate. You cannot say, okay, I suppose my opponent has this kind of card, so I will play with that in perspective. Because most of the time, if you have a Force of Will, you cannot show it. Sometime your opponent has a very obvious play. For example, you saw his hand, he goes for a Demonic Tutor or some kind of tutors, and you know he has some combo pieces, and so you may anticipate a Force of Will. But most of the time, it's just something he has in hand, and you cannot turn around it. And so it implies that you have to make a very bad choice. Either you play with Force of Will in mind, and so you're underplaying in some way. You're playing weak plays, and so you just diminish your chances of winning. But on the other side, if you play like your opponent doesn't have Force of Will, and he indeed does have it, well, it's just a huge blowout. So I think the choices it forces players to make are always bad, and I think it's a problematic card not by its power level itself, but by the kind of gameplay it proposes, the kind of decision making it imposes.
Yeah, I think when you compare it to a card like Force of Negation, you have with Force of Negation, if you suspect that your opponent has it, if they've tapped out and passed go in a turn there where it would have probably been better to represent counterspell mana or keep counterspell mana open, things like that. You know, okay, if I have an instant, I can pass my turn and play it in my opponent's upkeep. Then he has to spend them at 3 mana. These sorts of considerations exist, but against the Force of Will, there's no counterplay. You just have to say, okay, I'll play my spell, and if it's a good spell, it gets forced, and if it's not quite good enough, then I haven't done anything that affects my opponent enough for him to value playing the Force of Will. And if you are kind of, you can't rely on good players to kind of to misinterpret the power level of the card that you're playing to bait them into misplaying something like that. That doesn't work. So when you have Force of Will is just a card that if the opponent has it, they're usually going to be in a much better state than in a much better position to win the game. And I think that's a card that is toxic in that sense, where you have, okay, well, the opponent had a Force of Will, there was nothing I could do next game.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's something I always keep in mind when thinking about if a card has to stay or not. I think this type it's not an end all be all consideration, but it's something very strong in my opinion to identify bad player experience. Since in the end we are playing a competitive game, and I like to think that competitive means you have to make decisions, and decisions have to count, and that means we already have such so huge part of random, and I do not like to create situations where every decision is just bad. So yeah, I plainly agree with what you said.
Cool.
Right. Have we got anything else? I think
we do
there have
not.
been
I had a
few
check.
questions in the chat, but
So there was one question regarding invert polarity again. We talked about the card in the last stream of the January update. Maybe Nicolas, you can give us a brief thought on what's your opinion on invert polarity. Do you see this card to be problematic or rather not?
I think this card is it's really a bad card. Like it's a cancel. It's awful. We never want to play this in even in standard, even in limited. We don't want to play a cancel. But sometimes you can win with this on a dice, and I think it's a really bad experience to have this in the to have this. That's a kind of thing can happen. So yeah, I'm not really happy about Invert Polarity.
Okay,
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah, I'm completely on the opposite. I mean, I think to be fair, 60 card formats are not a good comparison to evaluate the quality of this card. Simply because, like especially in modern, like it's not standard legal, but in modern, 3 mana for a counterspell that can't be played for free, like Force of Negation we just had, is simply not possible, right? While in Duel Commander, as you just said, the card has the potential to flip the game by stealing a single permanent, which can be very game deciding already, or at least push your advantage to a certain point. But yeah, I think the card is definitely debatable. I personally have a problem with it. I think it should not be on the ban list, also because usually we tend to exclude the powerful cards that have or that use randomized effects by coin flip. Things like the Common Stellar Pup or Krark, for example, or Maddening Hex. All cards that might be better than this card. But I think, again, if we talk about Aragorn, which is the most prominent deck that makes use of Invert Polarity, I think it's definitely a card that's worth debating about. One more thing that I saw. Yeah, do you want to add something to that?
No, but I just think if this card if this card was never get print, it was not a problem for. We don't need this card, and it will be just better that this card was never get print, but. And because it's weird to have this card in the ban list, obviously, because this card is pretty bad, but it's just not a good player experience, I think.
Okay. Yeah, I don't want to. I don't want to
disagree
go
on the card being really
You
bad.
can go for that. Go for that. I don't want to go too much into detail because we talked like 20 minutes about invert polarity in the last stream. But
Yeah.
go for it, Samuel. Go for it.
Well, no, I think looking at the card, you either have a pretty good outcome or you have a game-winning outcome most of the time. There are going to be situations where you have to counter a 1 or 2 mana spell with it. Those are the wrong situations for the card. That's pretty obvious. But I think if you're countering a commander or a Pyrogoyf, anything like that, it takes, especially with the power of kind of enters the battlefield triggers that are in basically every deck. You have this card that does such an incredible tempo swing by putting the body on your side. You get the trigger, you get all these things. I disagree with saying that it's a bad card. We play Wash Away. Wash Away often is a counterspell for 1 mana, but sometimes it's a counterspell for 3 mana as well. And something like Lose Focus is often also cast for 3 mana. It's not like every counterspell in your deck has to counter something on turn 2. Turn 3 and turn 4 and turn 5 also exist. And if you are casting that card at that point in the game and you manage to hit something good with it, you either have countered the powerful card or you take it for yourself. And I think both modes are very strong.
But in fact, I just think it's when it works, it's really great and it's the best card of your deck. But when it don't work, it's really bad. And you will not play cancel in any deck in Duel Commander, and even in Pioneer, you don't really play Absorb or card like this. The tempo it's too hard, and that's why this card it's not interesting for me. So
Okay.
I
disagree.
Maybe agree to disagree.
That's fine. Yeah.
Sure.
Maybe we will close with one final thought from Dan, or one final question regarding the 3 5 mana extra turn spells. So I think we briefly touched the topic last time, but not like briefly, but not really. Is there okay? So this is a bit of a deeper question, I think, because we would actually have to look at which decks could use or even abuse these cards these days. Is it worth it to pay 5 mana for an extra turn in 2025? Let's maybe start with that. Do you think that's the case or not? Is this overall a thing that you've talked about at some point, or not at all?
I think it's still a very bad player experience overall, but I think it's still powerful, actually. I mean, if you have the possibility to play some of the last good extra turn, I'm thinking about the one with Delve, Temporal Trespass. If you can play this kind of cards, you usually play it. And I think 5 mana is still quite a good deal, actually, for this kind of play. And the other question is, it's something really comparable to what I said about Baral. The thing that if we can play those cards, what kind of decks would it enable? And I think the kind of deck it would enable wouldn't be the kind of deck I'd like to play against. Not in the sense of I personally dislike this kind of deck, but in the sense that I think it's a very bad overall playing experience. And I'm not sure I want to see a legit extra turn deck. It's just so much problematic in terms of experience.
Yeah, I personally, especially regarding the player experience, I totally agree. I mean, we have Hidetsugu is a deck that occupies 1 or 2 or 3 extra turns these days, right?
Yeah.
Like the very costly ones. I think Rise of the Eldrazi also grants an extra turn, if I'm not mistaken.
But it's specific in the sense that it's mostly a way to kill people.
Exactly. It's not. It doesn't take like 3 or 4. Like you don't have to wait 4 more turns until you finally die, right? Yeah. Exactly.
It's quite radical.
But even then, or like whenever your opponent casts mostly Azusa or like some control decks cast a Simsi 13 Emrakul, we always. This is a different kind of awkward feeling if your opponent controls your turn, but still, this whole extra turn thingy always puts a bad feeling on you. At least it's my impression. And it doesn't even matter if my opponent pays it does matter if they pay 2 mana because they have the one that you can cast in your draw step. I'm missing the name currently, but you know what I'm talking about. This one is, in that specific situation, the best one. But it's hard to abuse that way consequently. So, yeah, I think it's always a bad feeling. And I can totally see why those cards might might not be
And
in favor of being unbanned.
And I think there's a real risk of this kind of unban because there is Elminster in the format. It's a deck that exists right now, and I think if Elminster will have like 2 or 3 extra turn more, there will be really this command zone can support this strategy. Because he play already some extra turn and he can dig with in it with his +2, and so there is a real risk to unban this card.
Yeah. Yeah. As I said, I don't see a world right now in which we want these spells back. I personally missed them, especially like the Time Ward. I really like this artwork here. More like a nostalgic thing for me. I drafted a lot of Magic 2010 back then. But yeah. I think we talked about a lot of cards today. Lots of questions from the chat answered. And we got a lot of insights on multiple things on your side too. So I guess it's time to wrap it up unless there is one last thing from either of you guys. If that's not the case, I would close it here. And thank you very much.
One last comment of unbanned loyal retainers, but
okay, you can guys fire it in the chat right now. Our jokes aside, thank you very much for joining today to take your time and interact with us and the community on those changes. There are no changes today, but maybe in 2 months we have some more things to talk about again. So thanks again for taking the time. And
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, always a pleasure.
Thanks for coming on.
Hope to have you back at the next one. Maybe we have some interesting changes to talk about then.
Yep.
Until then, what's a good closing for Hero on the Battlefield? Something like this. Yeah, thanks for tuning in, guys.
We have our classic see you next time.
Yeah, maybe we just have a classic see you next time.
I think that's fine.
Thanks for tuning in, guys, and thanks for being active in the chat. And see you in the next one. End of May, actually. It's the 26th will be the next update. Until then, lots of successful games and much fun with...
See if the Dragon Mox needs to be banned by then.
I doubt it. I just wanted to say, enjoy the next standard set, which is coming this week already, I think. Okay. So, have a good night, good afternoon, good morning, whenever you tune in. And see you in the next session. Bye-bye.
Bye.